Maya's hands shook as she held the white piece of paper. Even in the dim streetlight, those red letters seemed to glow like fire. Final notice, eviction proceedings to begin. She read it again, hoping somehow the words would change. They didn't. The park bench felt cold beneath her, but she didn't care. At nearly 1 in the morning, the city was quieter than usual. A few cars passed by on the street, their headlights cutting through the darkness before disappearing around corners. Maya pulled her thin jacket tighter and looked up at the tall buildings surrounding the small park. "How did I get here?" she whispered to no one. Just 12 hours ago, she had been laughing with little Tommy in room 304. The 6-year-old had finally smiled after 3 days of being scared and homesick at the hospital. Maya remembered how his face lit up when she brought him the dinosaur coloring book. That moment had made all the exhaustion worth it. But now, sitting here with this notice in her hands, that joy felt like it happened to someone else. Maya worked as a nurse at City General Hospital. She loved her job, really loved it. There was something special about helping kids feel better when they were scared and hurt, but love didn't pay the bills. Even working extra shifts whenever she could, the money just wasn't enough. Her mom's cancer treatment had started 6 months ago. The insurance covered some of it, but not nearly enough. Every week brought new bills, new expenses, new numbers that made Maya's stomach drop. She had already borrowed money from her credit cards. She had already asked for extra hours at work. She had already sold her car and started taking the bus everywhere. What else could she do? The eviction notice said she had 7 days. 7 days to come up with 3 months of rent plus late fees. The number might as well have been $3 million. Maya had maybe $200 in her checking account, and that had to last until her next paycheck in 4 days. She folded the paper and put it in her purse, then immediately took it out again, as if looking at it one more time might make it less real. A tear rolled down her cheek, then another. Maya had been holding it in all day. At work, she smiled and joked with her patients. On the bus ride home, she sat quietly and stared out the window. When she saw the notice on her door, she just grabbed it and walked away. She couldn't face going inside her apartment. "Not yet, I'm so tired," she said out loud, and she was tired. Tired of worrying about money every single day. Tired of choosing between buying groceries and putting gas in the car she no longer had. Tired of seeing her mom try to hide how much pain she was in because she knew Maya was already stressed about the bills. Maya put her face in her hands and let herself cry. Really cry. The kind of crying she hadn't allowed herself to do in months. Her shoulders shook and her breath came in little gasps. She didn't care if anyone saw her. It was past midnight in a small city park. Who would be watching? 23 floors up, Daniel Chen stood at his bedroom window and watched her. He couldn't sleep again. This had been happening for months now. He would lie in bed staring at the ceiling until finally giving up and walking to the windows that covered one whole wall of his penthouse apartment. The city looked peaceful from up there. Quiet. Sometimes he would stand there for hours, just watching. Tonight, something was different. Usually the park below was empty except for the occasional person walking their dog. But there was someone on the bench. A young woman, and she was clearly upset. Daniel stepped closer to the window. He had excellent vision, and the streetlights gave him a clear view. The woman looked to be in her 20s with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore scrubs under a light jacket. A nurse, probably coming home from work. She was holding a piece of paper and crying. Daniel had seen a lot of things from his window over the years. Happy couples walking hand in hand. Families playing with their children during the day. Teenagers hanging out after school. But he had never seen someone sitting alone in the middle of the night, crying like their world was falling apart. Something about the scene made his chest feel tight. Maybe it was the way she sat so small on that big bench. Maybe it was how alone she looked in that moment. Or maybe it was because he recognized that kind of crying. The kind that comes when you've been holding everything in for too long and you just can't do it anymore. Daniel knew that feeling well. He had built his fortune from nothing. Well, not exactly nothing, but close to it. Growing up in foster care meant learning early that you couldn't depend on anyone but yourself. He had been lucky, if you could call it that. Smart enough to get scholarships. Determined enough to work multiple jobs while studying computer science. And lucky enough to have the right idea at the right time when the tech boom was just starting. Now, at 32, he had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. He owned 3 companies, had investments around the world, and lived in a penthouse that cost more than most people made in a year. But he also spent most of his time alone. Success had come with a price. The higher he climbed, the harder it became to know who really cared about him and who just cared about his money. After a few relationships that ended badly when he realized the women were more interested in his wealth than in him, Daniel had mostly given up on trying to connect with people. Now he watched this stranger crying on a park bench and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He wanted to help. Daniel had started a foundation years ago that gave money to different causes, but it was all handled by other people. He signed the checks and attended a few meetings, but he never got personally involved. He never met the people who received the help. But watching this woman, Daniel felt something different. This wasn't about writing a check to a charity and feeling good about himself. This was about one person who was clearly in pain and needed help right now. The woman folded the paper again and wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. She sat there for a few more minutes, then stood up slowly and walked toward the street. Daniel watched until she disappeared around the corner. He stood at the window for another hour thinking. By the time he finally went to bed, he had made a decision that would change both of their lives forever. Maya walked the 6 blocks to her apartment building in a daze. The crying had helped a little, but the problem was still there. 7 days. She climbed the 2 flights of stairs to her door and finally went inside. Tomorrow she would figure something out. She had to. Daniel couldn't stop thinking about her. He had tried to go to sleep after watching the woman disappear around the corner, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw her sitting on that bench, the way her shoulders had shaken when she cried, the way she had looked so small and alone under the streetlight. At 3 a.m, he gave up on sleep and went to his home office. The room was filled with computer screens and the soft hum of expensive equipment. This was where he did his best thinking, where he had built his companies from ideas into reality. But tonight he wasn't thinking about business deals or new technology. He was thinking about one person who needed help. Daniel had resources that most people couldn't even imagine. Money, yes, but also connections. People who could find information, people who could make things happen quickly and quietly. He had learned long ago that having the right contacts was just as valuable as having money in the bank. He picked up his phone and called someone he trusted completely. David? I know it's late. I need you to help me with something. David Rodriguez had been Daniel's assistant for almost 5 years. More than an assistant, really. He was the person Daniel trusted to handle the things that mattered most. David never asked unnecessary questions and never judged Daniel's decisions, no matter how unusual they might seem. What do you need, boss? There's a nurse who works at City General Hospital. Young woman, dark hair, probably in her 20s. She was in Riverside Park around midnight tonight, sitting on the bench near the fountain. She was wearing scrubs and seemed very upset. Daniel paused. How could he explain this without sounding crazy? I need to know who she is and what her situation is, but I need it done carefully. She can't know anyone is looking into her background. David had worked with Daniel long enough to know when his boss was serious about something. I'll start making some calls. How quickly do you need this information? By morning if possible. You got it. After hanging up, Daniel stood at his window again. The park was empty now, but he could still picture her sitting there. Something about the whole scene reminded him of himself 15 years ago. Different circumstances, but the same feeling of being completely alone with problems that seemed impossible to solve. When Daniel was 17, he had aged out of the foster care system with nothing but a backpack and $200. He remembered sitting in a bus station at midnight, holding a letter from a college that wanted to give him a scholarship. The scholarship was amazing, a full ride to study computer science, but it didn't cover housing or food or any of the hundreds of other expenses that came with going to college. He had cried that night too, sitting alone in that bus station, not because he was sad, but because he was so frustrated. He had worked so hard to get that scholarship, and it still wasn't enough. Somehow he had figured it out. He had found a way to make it work, working 3 jobs while taking classes, sleeping in the library when he couldn't afford his dorm room, eating 1 meal a day when money was tight. It had been the hardest thing he had ever done, but it had also made him who he was today. Now he had the chance to help someone else avoid that kind of struggle. His phone buzzed at 6 a.m. A text from David. Call me when you're awake. I have information. Daniel had been awake all night, but he called immediately. Her name is Maya Patel, David said. 26 years old. Been working at City General for 3 years. She's a pediatric nurse with excellent reviews from everyone I talk to. The kind of person who stays late to read bedtime stories to kids whose parents can't be there. Daniel listened carefully as David continued. She's been taking extra shifts for the past 6 months. Her mother, Priya Patel, was diagnosed with breast cancer and is going through treatment. The medical bills are crushing them. Maya's behind on rent, car payments, everything. She sold her car last month to try to catch up, but it wasn't enough. How behind is she? Daniel asked. 3 months on rent plus late fees. The eviction notice was posted yesterday. She has less than a week to come up with almost $4,000 or she's out. Daniel closed his eyes. $4,000. He spent more than that on dinner sometimes. For him, it was nothing. For her, it was everything. There's more, David said. I talked to someone who works with her at the hospital. Maya has been trying to get into an advanced pediatric training program for over a year. It's highly competitive and she finally got accepted, but she can't afford to take time off work to do it. The program would qualify her for better positions, better pay, but she needs her current paycheck too much to take the risk. Daniel sat quietly for a moment thinking. An idea was forming in his mind. Not just a way to help Maya with her immediate problem, but something bigger. Something that could change her whole situation. David, I need you to research something else. Advanced pediatric nursing programs. Especially ones that offer full funding for participants. I want to know about programs in other countries too. Places that might offer housing and family medical coverage as part of the deal. Are you thinking about starting something like that? Maybe. Or maybe I'm thinking about finding an existing program that could use some extra funding to expand their offerings. While Daniel was learning everything he could about Maya, she was getting ready for another long shift at the hospital. She had barely slept, and the eviction notice sat on her kitchen counter like a weight pressing down on everything. Maya had spent the early morning hours looking at her options. She could try to borrow money from friends, but most of her friends were nurses too, dealing with their own financial struggles. She could look into emergency assistance programs, but those took weeks to process applications, and she had days. She could call her mom's sister in California and ask for help, but Aunt Rita was already helping with some of the medical bills. Maya couldn't ask for more. The only other option was to find a second job, but when? She was already working 50 hours a week at the hospital, and her mom needed care and support during her treatment. Maya looked at herself in the bathroom mirror as she got ready for work. She looked tired and stressed, which wasn't the image she wanted to project to her young patients. Kids could sense when adults were worried, and she had always prided herself on being the nurse who could make them smile even when they felt terrible. You can figure this out, she told her reflection. You always figure it out, but this time felt different. This time the numbers just didn't add up no matter how she arranged them. At the hospital, Maya threw herself into work like always. She helped little Amy with her physical therapy exercises, teaching her how to make it into a game. She sat with 8-year-old Carlos while he got his chemotherapy treatment, reading him stories and making him laugh. During her lunch break, she called the apartment management office. Maybe she could work out a payment plan. Maybe they would give her a little more time. I'm sorry, Ms. Patel, the woman said. The notice has already been filed with the court. You have until Friday to pay in full, or we have to proceed with the eviction. Friday. That was 5 days away. Maya hung up and put her head in her hands. Around her, the hospital cafeteria buzzed with conversations and the sound of people going about their normal day. Everything felt surreal, like she was watching her life fall apart while everyone else continued as usual. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mom. How are you doing, sweetheart? Don't worry about me today, I'm feeling much better. Even while going through cancer treatment, her mom was trying to take care of her. Maya typed back, I'm fine, Mom, focus on getting better. Love you. She wasn't fine, but what else could she say? 23 floors up, Daniel was putting together a plan that would change everything. Maya was changing the bandages on 10-year-old Lucy's arm when her supervisor knocked on the door. Maya, can I see you for a minute? Mrs. Henderson is here from administration. She needs to speak with you. Maya's heart dropped. Getting called to administration was never good news. Had someone complained about her work? Was there a problem with her schedule requests? With everything else going wrong in her life, losing her job would be the final blow. I'll be right back, Lucy, Maya said, forcing a smile. "Keep that arm still for me, okay?" She followed her supervisor down the hallway, her mind racing through every interaction she'd had with patients and families over the past few weeks. Nothing stood out as problematic, but these days Maya felt like she was walking on thin ice everywhere she went. Mrs. Henderson was waiting in one of the small conference rooms near the administrative offices. Maya had seen her around the hospital but had never spoken to her directly. She was an older woman with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. "Maya, please sit down. I have something rather unusual to discuss with you." Maya sat on the edge of her chair, ready for bad news. "Yesterday, our hospital received a call from the International Pediatric Care Foundation." "Have you heard of them?" Maya shook her head. "They're a relatively new organization that focuses on advancing pediatric nursing care around the world. They're looking to sponsor exceptional nurses for intensive training programs that would normally be impossible to afford." Maya blinked. This wasn't what she had expected at all. "The foundation called specifically asking about you, Maya. Someone recommended you as a candidate for their pilot program." "Someone recommended me? Who?" Mrs. Henderson shuffled through some papers. "They didn't say specifically. They mentioned that your work with pediatric patients had come to their attention through professional networks. They were particularly impressed with your dedication and the extra time you spend with your patients." Maya felt confused. She had never heard of this foundation, and she couldn't think of anyone who would recommend her for something like this. "What kind of program is it?" "It's a 6-month advanced pediatric care training program. The first part would be here in the city, working with their specialists who are visiting from Europe. Then if you qualify, the second part would be in Switzerland, working at one of the world's leading children's hospitals." Switzerland? Maya had dreamed of training opportunities like this, but they were always far beyond her reach. "Maya, this is the extraordinary part. The program covers everything. Full salary continuation, all training costs, housing if you need to relocate, and comprehensive medical coverage for immediate family members during the program period." Maya stared at her. "I'm sorry, what?" "They would pay your current salary throughout the program, cover all your expenses, and provide full medical coverage for your mother's ongoing treatment." "Everything." Maya's hands started shaking. This sounded too good to be true. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. Is this real?" Mrs. Henderson smiled. "I thought the same thing, so I spent most of yesterday researching this foundation. They're legitimate, Maya. They're funded by some very wealthy donors who prefer to remain anonymous. The program is new, which is why you might not have heard of it. Why me? From what I understand, they're looking for nurses who demonstrate exceptional care and dedication, particularly those who face financial barriers that prevent them from pursuing advanced training. Your work here speaks for itself, Maya. You're exactly the kind of person they want to support." Maya felt like she was dreaming. 24 hours ago, she was sitting on a park bench crying because she was about to be evicted. Now someone was offering her a life-changing opportunity that solved every problem she had. What would I need to do? "The foundation representative wants to meet with you tomorrow to discuss the details. If you're interested, that is." "Of course I'm interested, but I don't understand. How did they even know about me?" Mrs. Henderson gathered the papers. "Sometimes good things happen to good people. Maya, maybe don't question it too much." While Maya tried to process this incredible news, Daniel was 23 floors up, making sure every detail of his plan was perfect. "The foundation is completely legitimate now," David reported. "I fast-tracked the legal paperwork and had our lawyers file everything properly. The International Pediatric Care Foundation officially exists, with you as the primary donor." "Good. What about the medical coverage?" "All arranged. Maya's mother will have access to the best cancer treatment available, with all costs covered. I've also set up partnerships with 2 hospitals here in the city and 1 in Switzerland, so the training program is real and valuable." Daniel had spent the entire night working out every detail. This couldn't just be charity disguised as an opportunity. Maya needed to gain real skills and credentials that would benefit her career long-term. The program had to be legitimate and valuable, something that would actually help her build a better future. The salary continuation. Her current hospital salary will be paid throughout the program, plus a housing allowance if she needs to relocate for the Swiss portion. I've also included a completion bonus that would give her enough money to secure better housing when she returns. Daniel leaned back in his chair. And the recommendation? I used our contacts at the Professional Nursing Association. Made it seem like your name came up through their networks as someone who showed exceptional dedication. No one can trace it back to you directly. Perfect. But even as Daniel said it, he felt a knot in his stomach. He was essentially lying to Maya, creating an elaborate fiction to help her. His intentions were good, but the deception bothered him more than he had expected. Boss, can I ask you something? What? Why this particular person? You've never gotten personally involved in charity work before. Daniel looked out his window toward the park where he had first seen Maya. I don't know. David? Something about seeing her sitting there alone, crying. It reminded me of myself at that age, when you're drowning and you can't see any way out. You think she'll accept? I hope so. But even if she doesn't, we'll find another way to help her. Back at the hospital, Maya finished her shift in a daze. The conversation with Mrs. Henderson felt like something that had happened to someone else. She kept waiting for someone to tell her it was all a mistake, that there was no foundation, no program, no opportunity. During her break, she called her mom. Maya, you sound different. What's going on? Maya took a deep breath. Mom, something incredible happened today. Someone wants to sponsor me for an advanced nursing program. It would pay my salary and cover all your medical costs. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Mom, are you there? I'm here, sweetheart. Are you sure this is real? I think so. The hospital administration seems to think it is. I'm meeting with someone tomorrow to learn more. Oh, Maya, this sounds like an answer to prayer. I know. I can't believe it either. That evening, Maya sat at her kitchen table with the eviction notice still sitting there. But for the first time in months, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Maybe. Just maybe. Things were about to get better. She had no idea that 23 floors above the park where she had cried the night before, the person responsible for her sudden change of fortune was watching the city lights and hoping he had done the right thing. Tomorrow would bring new questions and new challenges. But tonight, for the first time in months, Maya fell asleep without worrying about money, and for the first time in years, Daniel fell asleep before midnight. The meeting with the foundation representative went better than Maya could have hoped. Dr. Williams, a distinguished woman in her 50s, explained the program with such detail and enthusiasm that Maya's last doubts melted away. This was real. This was actually happening. 2 weeks later, Maya found herself walking into the most beautiful medical training facility she had ever seen. The foundation had rented an entire floor of a downtown building, complete with state-of-the-art equipment and simulation labs. 5 other nurses from different hospitals had been selected for the program, all of them as amazed as Maya to be there. The training was intense, but incredible. Maya learned advanced techniques she had only read about in journals. She worked with specialists who had flown in from hospitals in London and Geneva. Every day brought new knowledge that she knew would make her a better nurse. Best of all, her mother's treatment was going smoothly. The foundation's medical coverage had allowed her mom to see the best specialists in the city. The stress that had been eating away at Maya for months was finally lifting. 3 weeks into the program, Maya discovered a small coffee shop near the training facility. It was quiet and had good Wi-Fi, perfect for studying during her lunch breaks. She was reviewing notes about pediatric cardiac procedures when someone sat down at the table next to her. Excuse me, are you studying pediatric medicine? Maya looked up to see a man about her age with dark hair and kind eyes. He was well-dressed but not flashy, and there was something about his smile that put her at ease immediately. Advanced nursing, actually. Pediatric specialty. Maya closed her notebook slightly, unsure if she should be talking to a stranger. That's amazing. My name is Daniel. I work in technology, but I've always had a lot of respect for people in healthcare. What you do is much more important than what I do. There was something genuine about the way he said it, not like he was trying to impress her, but like he really meant it. I'm Maya, and I'm sure your work is important too. Maybe, but you're directly helping kids feel better. That's pretty hard to beat. They talked for a few more minutes before Maya had to get back to training. Daniel seemed intelligent and easy to talk to, asking thoughtful questions about her work without being pushy. When she left, Maya found herself hoping she would run into him again. She did 2 days later at the same coffee shop. Maya, how's the training going? This time their conversation lasted longer. Daniel was curious about her work but also shared stories about his own job. He worked for a technology company that developed software for hospitals, he said. It explained his interest in healthcare. It must be rewarding, Maya said, knowing that your work helps hospitals run better. Daniel's smile flickered for just a moment. Yes, it is. Over the following weeks, Maya and Daniel kept running into each other, at the coffee shop, at a bookstore near the training facility, at a charity fundraiser for children's health that Maya attended with her program colleagues. Each time, their conversations got longer and more personal. Maya learned that Daniel had grown up in foster care and worked his way through college. She told him about her mother's illness and how the foundation program had changed everything for them. Daniel listened with the kind of attention that made Maya feel like he really understood what she had been going through. "You must have been so scared," he said one evening as they walked around the park near the training facility. The same park where Maya had cried that night weeks ago, though she didn't mention that to Daniel. Terrified, Maya admitted. "I kept thinking about what would happen if I couldn't take care of my mom. She's all the family I have." Daniel stopped walking. "You're not alone anymore, Maya. You've built this whole career helping people. You have colleagues who respect you, and now you're getting training that will open up even more opportunities." "You did that," Maya smiled. "The foundation did that. If they hadn't chosen me, they chose you because you deserved it. Don't sell yourself short." There was something in the way Daniel said it that made Maya look at him more carefully. Sometimes he seemed to know more about her situation than she had told him, but when she tried to pinpoint exactly what seemed odd, she couldn't put her finger on it. As the weeks passed, Maya found herself looking forward to seeing Daniel more than she wanted to admit. He was different from anyone she had dated before. He listened more than he talked. He asked about her dreams and actually remembered her answers. When she mentioned wanting to work with children in developing countries someday, he didn't dismiss it as unrealistic. Instead, he asked what it would take to make that happen. "You could do it," he said. "After this training, after you get more experience, you could work anywhere in the world." "It's nice to dream," Maya said. "It's not just a dream. You're already doing it." But just as Maya was starting to believe that her life was really turning around, everything changed. Her mother called her at work one Tuesday morning, and Maya knew immediately from her voice that something was wrong. "Maya, sweetheart, I need to tell you something. The doctors want me to come in today." The latest test showed some changes. Maya's blood went cold. "What kind of changes?" "They're not sure yet, but they want to run more tests and possibly adjust my treatment plan." Maya left training early and went straight to the hospital where her mother was being treated. The news was worse than she had feared. The cancer had spread despite the treatment. They needed to try a more aggressive approach immediately. "The good news," the doctor said, "is that we can start the new treatment right away. With your insurance coverage through the foundation program, we have access to the newest therapies available." Maya held her mother's hand and tried to stay strong, but inside she was falling apart. Just when she thought things were getting better, the universe was reminding her that nothing was guaranteed. That evening, Maya sat in the same park where she had cried weeks ago, trying to process everything. She wasn't crying this time, but she felt that familiar weight pressing down on her chest. "Maya?" She looked up to see Daniel walking toward her. "Hey, what are you doing here?" "I was just walking. Are you okay?" "You look upset." Maya told him about her mother's diagnosis. Daniel sat down beside her and listened without trying to fix anything or offer empty reassurances. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Maya, I need to tell you. Show us something." There was something in his voice that made her look at him sharply. "What?" Daniel took a deep breath. "The foundation program. It's not what you think it is. What do you mean?" "I mean, it's real. The training is real. The medical coverage is real. Everything you're getting is real. But the foundation, I created it." "To help you," Maya stared at him. "What are you talking about? I saw you here in this park about 2 months ago. You were crying and holding what looked like an eviction notice. I watched you from my apartment window and I couldn't stop thinking about you. I wanted to help." Maya stood up slowly. "You created the foundation? You've been lying to me this whole time?" "Not lying exactly." "Maya, please let me explain." "Explain what?" "That you've been playing some kind of game with my life? That every conversation we've had has been part of some elaborate setup?" "No, Maya, the way I feel about you is real. Getting to know you, spending time with you, that's all real." Maya backed away from him. "How much do you know about me? How much research did you do before you decided to rescue the poor struggling nurse?" It's not like that. What is it like then, Daniel? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you decided I was some charity case and created this whole fantasy to make yourself feel better. Daniel reached toward her, but Maya stepped further away. Everything I told you about myself, my mother, my fears, my dreams, you already knew all of it, didn't you? Daniel's silence was answer enough. Oh my God. Maya put her hand to her forehead. This is why we kept running into each other. This is why you always seemed to understand exactly what I was going through. You've been manipulating everything. Maya, please. Yes, I knew about your situation when we first met, but getting to know you as a person, falling for you, that happened naturally. Falling for me? Maya's voice was sharp. You don't even know me. You know a file someone put together about me. You know my problems and my history, but you don't know me. She started walking away, but Daniel followed her. Maya, wait. I know I should have told you sooner, but I didn't know how. And then we started spending time together, and I didn't want to ruin it. Maya turned around, and Daniel could see tears in her eyes. You want to know the worst part? For the first time in years, I thought something good was happening just because I deserved it. I thought maybe the universe was finally giving me a break. But it was all just you, wasn't it? Playing God with my life. Maya, don't. Just don't. I need time to think about all of this. Maya walked away, leaving Daniel standing alone in the park where everything had started. Maya didn't speak to Daniel for 2 weeks. She threw herself into her training with an intensity that worried her instructors. She studied late into the night, volunteered for extra practice sessions, and pushed herself harder than anyone else in the program. If people were going to see her as charity case, she would prove them wrong by being the best student they had ever seen. But late at night, when she was alone with her thoughts, Maya couldn't stop thinking about Daniel's revelation. The worst part wasn't even the deception. The worst part was that she missed him. She missed their conversations about books and travel and dreams for the future. She missed the way he listened when she talked about her patients, like every story mattered. She missed how he made her laugh without trying too hard, which made her even angrier because how could she miss someone who had been lying to her from the beginning? Maya's mother noticed the change immediately. You're working too hard, sweetheart, her mom said during one of Maya's visits to the hospital. The new treatment was tough, but it seemed to be working. Her mother looked tired but hopeful. I'm fine, Mom. No, you're not. You haven't mentioned Daniel in weeks. Did something happen? Maya had told her mother about Daniel early on, describing him as a friend she had met near the training facility. She hadn't mentioned how much she was starting to care about him, but her mother had picked up on it anyway. We had a disagreement. About what? Maya looked out the hospital room window. How could she explain without revealing the truth about the foundation? Her mother was so grateful for the program and the medical coverage. Maya couldn't bear to tell her that it was all based on one person's pity. It's complicated, Mom. Honey, I've been around long enough to know that when someone says it's complicated, it usually means they're scared. Scared of what? Scared of letting someone matter to them. Maya's mother reached over and took her hand. I know you've been taking care of everyone else for so long that you forgot how to let someone take care of you, but maybe it's time to try. That night, Maya walked through the park where everything had started. She found herself sitting on the same bench where she had cried 2 months ago. So much had changed since then, and yet here she was, confused and hurting again. I thought I might find you here. Maya turned to see Daniel approaching slowly, like he was afraid she might run away. She had been expecting this conversation, dreading it and hoping for it at the same time. Maya, I need to tell you some things, and then if you want me to leave you alone forever, I will. Maya gestured to the other end of the bench. Daniel sat down, keeping distance between them. I've been thinking about what you said about me playing God with your life. You were right. That's exactly what I did, and I'm sorry. Maya didn't say anything, so Daniel continued. I told you I grew up in foster care, but I didn't tell you the whole story. When I was 17, I was sitting in a bus station with a college scholarship letter in my hand, crying because I couldn't figure out how to make it work. I had no money, no family, no one to help me. Daniel looked down at his hands. An older man saw me sitting there and asked what was wrong. When I told him, he said something I'll never forget. He said, Son, sometimes the universe sends help through other people, and the only thing you can do wrong is refuse to accept it. What happened? He paid for my first semester's housing. Never told me his name. Never asked for anything back. Just said to help someone else when I could. Maya felt something shift in her chest, but she wasn't ready to let go of her anger yet. That's a nice story, Daniel, but it doesn't change what you did to me. That man didn't lie to you or manipulate your whole life. You're right. He was honest with me from the beginning, and I should have been honest with you. Daniel turned to face her. Maya, I have no excuse for the deception. I was scared that if I just offered to help directly, you would say no. I was scared that you would think I was some rich guy looking for a way to feel better about himself. Weren't you? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Maybe at first. But Maya, getting to know you changed everything. The way you talk about your patients, the way you light up when you learn something new, the way you worry about your mom even when you're exhausted. None of that was in any file. That's who you are as a person. Maya felt tears starting and she wiped them away quickly. How am I supposed to trust anything you say now? I don't know. But I want to try to earn that trust back if you'll let me. Daniel reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folder. These are all the legal documents for the foundation. Every bank account, every contract, every detail of how it works. I want to sign it all over to you. Maya stared at him. What? The foundation has enough money to run the training program for 10 years. It can help dozens of nurses get advanced training and provide medical coverage for their families. But I want you to run it. Make the decisions about who gets help and how. Daniel, I can't. Yes, you can. You're the one who knows what nurses need, what families are struggling with. You're the one who should decide how to help them. Maya took the folder with shaking hands. Why would you do this? Because you were right about something else. I was playing God with your life, making decisions about what you needed without asking you. This way you get to make those decisions for other people. Maya looked through the documents. The numbers were staggering. Daniel had put enough money into the foundation to change hundreds of lives. Daniel, this is incredible. But I still don't understand why you did all this for me. Because that night when I saw you crying on this bench, I saw myself 15 years ago. And because in all the years since I became successful, I've never felt as happy as I did having coffee with you and listening to you talk about your work. They sat in silence for a while, both looking out at the city lights. I'm still angry at you, Maya said finally. I know. And I still don't know if I can trust you. I know that too. But Maya took a deep breath. I miss talking to you. I miss having someone who understands why I care so much about my patients. Daniel smiled for the first time in weeks. I miss that too. If we're going to try this, if we're going to be friends or whatever this is, you have to promise me something. Anything. No more lies. No more surprises. No more trying to fix my problems without asking me first. I promise. Maya stood up and Daniel did the same. I need time to think about all this. The foundation, us, everything? I understand, but Daniel? Yeah, thank you. For helping my mom, for the training program, for believing I deserved better even when I didn't believe it myself. 6 months later, Maya was back from Switzerland with advanced certification and a job offer from one of the best children's hospitals in the country. More importantly, she was running the foundation that now helped 20 nurses each year pursue advanced training. Her mother's treatment had been successful, and she was in remission. And Daniel? He was still in her life, but differently now, as a friend who had learned to ask before trying to help, as a partner in the foundation who respected her decisions, and slowly, carefully as something more. They met for coffee once a week in the same shop where they had first talked. But now their conversations were built on honesty instead of secrets. I got a letter today from one of the nurses in our program, Maya said, sliding a handwritten note across the table. She's working in a clinic in rural Montana now, helping kids who had never had access to specialized pediatric care before. Daniel read the letter and smiled. This is why you should be running the foundation, not me. We're running it, Maya corrected. Together. It wasn't the fairy tale ending Maya had dreamed of as a little girl. It was better. It was real, built on truth and shared purpose. And every time she sat on that park bench now, it wasn't to cry about problems she couldn't solve. It was to plan how they could help solve problems for others. Sometimes the best love stories aren't about perfect people finding each other. Sometimes they're about imperfect people learning to be honest with each other and using that honesty to make the world a little bit better. Maya and Daniel were still figuring out what they meant to each other. But they were doing it together, one convey,